Welcome to the channel of Samu Oron. I'm glad you're here and giving me your attention. Today I would like to share a thoughtful analysis about the Germans and their problems. The Germans and their problems. Many European ethnic groups, especially the Germans, are distinguished as an astonishing population group. Their tendency towards self-disempowerment, the dismantling of cultural achievements and traditions, and their passion for self-destruction are extraordinary, as the history of the last 100 years impressively demonstrates. One wonders what repeatedly motivates people to follow so unconditionally in lockstep with the most absurd ideological brainwashing, charlatans, and liars. One answer can be found in the famous brain researcher Ernst Poppel. After intensive scientific studies on the Germans, he concluded that many people too uncritically adopt the views of others and don't question things sufficiently. Quote, "We rely too much on others thinking for us. We readily adopt opinions that others have already formed. Thus we live in self-inflicted immaturity." He continues, "I estimate that only about 10% of people think for themselves and take their lives into their own hands. However, I suspect that there has always been something like a 90-10 rule here. What is new, however, is the influence of digital media. This is the digital version of the Pied Piper of Hamelin. Orienting oneself towards others and not questioning things is so convenient. Uncritically adopting what others have already said is dangerous." Source: Dare to Think by Ernst Poppel and Beatrice Wagner. To put it bluntly, society in this country is suffering from a collective stupidity caused by convenience, according to the sober analysis of political scientist Thomas Cliche. Another remarkable aspect is that this population is completely incapable of learning from its own past. A strong drive, almost like religious veneration, for materialism, absurd political ideologies, doomsday myths, or world-saving missions has repeatedly led to national disasters. This people has never been humble in its thinking, but rather committed to megalomania. The more absurd the ideologies, the more readily they find fertile ground in the minds of many members of this population group. Equally impressive is the reaction of many members of this population when they are personally caught up in the disasters they have caused. Some statements are familiar to us from historical context. How was it possible that this happened? I didn't participate. I didn't notice anything. The others are no better. Here again, we see a striking characteristic of this people, self-denial and trivialization, which ultimately pave the way for future errors. There's another fact: the consistent ignorance of reality. This fact is comical in itself. Here are some examples that have been cited. The belief that COVID vaccinations and masks protect against infection was arguably one of the biggest stupidities people seriously believed, some even today. Another telling example was the US presidential election, in which Germans, completely unrealistically, succumbed to local propaganda and actually believed that Biden would become president again, even though the mood in the US was clear. It truly amazes me how people follow the media so unconditionally and literally hang on its every word without rhyme or reason. Equally remarkable is people's firm belief that a government that has governed poorly for a long period of time would demonstrate better governance in the next election. Also part of this context is the absurd and unshakable belief in the veracity of statements made by politicians before elections. Albert Einstein succinctly stated, "The definition of insanity is continually doing the same thing and expecting different results." In a mature person, such behavior evokes a state of astonishment and even amusement. However, such incidents also cause serious reflection. Einstein is quoted again here, "The world is not threatened by evil people, but by those who permit evil." How should one assess a people that is so easily manipulated and led into complete isolation from reality? The sober answer is that one must be prepared for the worst, as this people suffers from a compulsive desire for collective guilt, through turning a blind eye and a deaf ear, abdicating responsibility, immaturity, obedience to authority, and blind obedience. From the aforementioned background, it can be deduced why the worst belligerence and cruelty emanated from German soil in an almost religious zeal. I would like to add to Goya's true statement, "When reason falls asleep, the demons awaken." By way of explanation, I would like to add, where reason is asleep, people become the playthings of these demonic forces and consequently become accomplices. For when lies and deceit, injustice and arbitrariness prevail, and one surrenders to this situation defenselessly, one becomes a component of these terrible deeds. Is hope in sight for this people? Yes, when everything is doomed to decline, the burdens and the personal sacrifices become too great. The current political agenda set by post-socialist transhumanists, "you will own nothing and be happy," is already showing its fruit. However, it will fail because of a simple historical truth. When people have nothing left to lose, every ideological state system will fail sooner or later. The sad thing, however, is that it has to happen again and again. This ultimately leads us to the bitter realization that Desmond Tutu once summed up as follows: "We learn from history that we don't learn from history." It's great that you stayed with us until the end. If you enjoyed the current topic, I would be delighted if you would like and share the video with others. If you would like to support my work, you can subscribe to the channel. Thank you very much and be blessed.